This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald in with us as he is every Tuesday. Usually Ron McGill is with us, the zoo expert. We are obsessed with the animals around here, and some people have sent us some video and audio. I don't know if you guys have seen it from Nicole Lewis on Facebook. What's the plural of lynx? I think these animals are lynx. Is the plural of lynx lynxes or lynx?
Lynx. Yeah.
It's not lynxes?
I don't believe so.
Guillermo, put on the poll, lynx or lynxes? Mike, are these indeed lynxes or lynx?
ABC News posted Canadian lynxes in their description.
Okay, so
I think it's like antelope. I think it's an animal where the singular is also the plural.
This is apparently a tomato. Either applies.
Antelope. What other animals are there like that? Antelope. Octopus are not octopuses. They become octopi.
Yep.
What other animals are like that in the plural, where you say antelope is casually like that, as if there are many, where the plural is not what you might think it is?
Bison, fish.
Fish is interesting, though, because like if you go to an aquarium, it'll say fishes, and you're like, why does it say fishes? That's wrong. The plural's fish. It's fishes when it's different species of fish together.
Yep.
It is?
Well said.
What's the plural of shrimp?
Shrimps.
Shrimp.
So these lynx or these lynxes are talking, or they seem to be communicating. They're just facing each other. And to me, this is what it sounds like anytime I turn on my radio or television and people are comparing LeBron and Michael Jordan and having an argument, or on Get Up, an argument about who would win one-on-one. Jason Williams says 7-3. Jalen Rose leaves the studio. It says 7-3 LeBron. LeBron would dominate Michael. And then Jalen leaves the studio. So this is what that sounds like to me.
Cool. Who runs into this?
I could kill the Oh, Jesus.
Seems like the first one has Jordan.
They both do. They agreed. It also sounded like the tunnel at halftime after the butt fumble game. I'm pretty sure somewhere in there, Jets fans were furious because Mark Sanchez had run into the butt crack of his offensive lineman and fumbled the football. And as they left the field, we have said before that this sounds like the wailing and gnashing that you hear as people try to climb the walls of hell. That's not a bit, incidentally. That's the actual sound from around the Jets tunnel, and it sounded like that for 3 decades.
Since I was born, Dan, you're right.
So today we are going to be on First Take. When I say we, I use the term loosely. Greg Cote is hurt by the fact that for some reason he's not going to be allowed to be in here. How was this news delivered to you that when we simulcast with First Take in 1 hour as they welcome our show onto their mighty platform?
Yeah, I guess I should be used to it by now. Christopher, I think, was assigned to break the news to me, so he called me yesterday. We had watched his newborn daughter over the weekend, so he called me ostensibly to thank me again for watching the baby, when in fact he was just calling to break the news to me that I would be excluded from the First Take thing.
You knew right away something bad was
yeah.
coming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know how this creature works. You got to tickle him with something nice before you hit him with the bad news, and it worked.
Well, I mean, it worked to a degree. It's a sign of disrespect, but that's okay. I got thick skin like an alligator. Don't worry about me.
How did that go, Chris? How did it go, you having to deliver the news to your father that he was not allowed to be on First Take?
Well, it was just a consensus back here that he was going to be a diva about it. So it was kind of like, can you just break the news to him so he's not first hearing about it tomorrow morning? Can you just, plant the seed that this is going to be happening?
No, I get it. I'm a big boy. I'm grandpa now. You're having people over and you send grandpa down to the basement to finish a crossword puzzle because you don't want him to associate with people and perhaps embarrass you by saying something untoward. I get that.
Here's one of the funny things about that. I didn't know that you had merged the Lynxes in that sound until the very end. The Lynxes evidently were there throughout throughout the audio of that last one that he played, and I could not hear them until the very end.
Who runs into this?
I love those links.
Would it be funny if Greg was just sitting between the two of you actually doing a crossword puzzle during First Take?
I feel like he should be out in here in some capacity that's non-speaking.
I do love a crossword puzzle. The key is to start with the edge. When you secure the edge.
Outside in?
Yeah, you go outside in, and then it's beautiful.
Sure.
Guillermo put on the poll, is the key to a crossword puzzle securing the edge?
Everybody knows that.
Can we come up with something funnier, though, than Greg sitting between us doing a crossword puzzle?
Let's throw it out to the audience. Let's throw it out to the audience. What should we do? Because I don't want to respect the debate. Like, I don't want to go on First Take and do it First Take's way.
Embrace the debate. That's a fun.
I was more of a word search guy than a crossword guy.
Greg, are you a Sudoku man? I'm a Sudoku man.
I am not, quite frankly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you tried? You'd enjoy a good Sudoku.
No, I have not, actually, although that's a form of Japanese heritage. Am I right?
Wow, what a useless contribution.
True? Is that Japanese
That's why we
heritage?
don't want him on First Take right there, because he'll say something like that. Everyone will stare at each other, and it's just like, is that Japanese heritage something he could look up? It's just useless. You asked a question, but it wasn't useful.
Nobody answered it.
As radio.
I love that.
I mean, you can't do it enough. To me, it sounds like about 2/3 of sports programming. And then Jalen Rose walks out of the studio.
Don Batard.
My father has turned on everyone in the organization. Everyone. He has turned the Miami Heat into something he loves and hates. He's blaming everybody.
Stugotz.
Well, it started with all that air and the bags of chips. If the Heat would have taken care of that, it'd have fallen in line.
Mickey Aaron chips.
Exactly.
What?
It's cold, man.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We are trying to figure out how to have Greg Cote do Second Take in 30 minutes. We don't know where we're going to do it yet, but we will tell you within 30 minutes. While we're doing First Take, Stugotz and me in the shipping container in 30 minutes with Stephen A. and Max Kellerman. What are we discussing, incidentally? Do we know?
Yeah, they sent me a note. The topic for your segment is, are the healthy Warriors the greatest team in NBA history?
Wow. Whoa. Oh, right in your wheelhouse, Dan.
Wow,
yeah.
One question, that's it? One question? We got to talk for 10 minutes?
They
about
can debate that question for a week, man. Are you kidding me?
Question.
10 minutes only?
Right. Excited?
Dan Batard has just gone to hell with that question. You hate that, which I love.
Are they, though?
Time now for stat of the day.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Of course they are.
Warriors
they
are not the best team in the history of the NBA. I can name 10 teams at the top of my head that are better than Golden State Warriors. Every single team that Michael Jordan played on.
How about those Celtics that won like 9 championships in a row?
Every single team that Bill Russell on is better than Golden State Warriors. Oh, the Magic Johnson Lakers. Oh, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Lakers. Oh, how about the Milwaukee Bucks with Lou
History just started now. Steph Curry.
How about the 82 Sixers? How about them?
I'm screaming like a lynx in a dungeon.
I mean, it's absurd. What a bad guy. Golden State Warriors. I mean, the Warriors are better without Durant. I mean, it's unbelievable. They broke the Bulls' single-season win record. They have Kevin Durant.
The Boston Celtics in the 60s are the team you got to start with.
I tell you, the team before they had Durant is better than the team they have now. How about that? I mean, I'm telling you.
Fair.
For me, 82 Sixers, all the Bulls team, including the 2 that Michael Jordan didn't play on because they took a break to play baseball.
Playoff game with Kevin Durant on that team.
It's absurd.
Cheaters. Too many threes.
So what's the stat of the day?
Oh, yeah. According to Spotrac, the Rams are paying Ndamukong Suh $14.5 million to play for them, and the Dolphins are paying him $17 million to not play for them.
So what's the better stat of the day? That or this right here? Where's that stat from, Stugotz? Give credit where it's due.
I said Spotrac.
Okay. Yep. Katie Sharp on Twitter points out that Eddie Murray, you remember him, the brooding first baseman for the Orioles.
Sure do.
He was elected to the Hall of Fame 15 years ago. 15 years ago. Bartolo Colon faced him.
You win, man.
That's a great one. That's a winner.
So you got to wait 5 years. Did Murray get in on the first ballot? Probably.
I think he did, yeah. 3,000 hits, 500 homers, I believe. That'll get you in first ballot.
Not on my ballot. Not really. I mean, the standard's got to be higher. Yeah, standard's got to be higher. Yeah. You know, Canseco had 500 home runs. He's not on my ballot. That kind of thing.
3,000 hit thing, though, too.
That's something. But, you know, you play enough. You can have 3,000 hits and bat 279. I mean,
he was 287.
There you go.
Listen, I'm not saying maybe you're right on the first ballot. He did play for 20 years.
Right. I don't think he was first ballot. I'd be curious about that.
I mean, 500 home runs and 3,000 hits, if you're not a steroid guy, is absolutely first ballot, Greg. Like, man.
It used to be.
I said, if you're not a steroid guy,
okay.
If you're 500 home runs and 3,000 hits, my guess is that everyone in the history of the sport who's not a steroid guy is first ballot with those two numbers.
He's first ballot. He got 85% of the vote.
Okay. All right. You know, that's not 97%.
How do you have a vote?
There's a lot of people who
how do you
have
a vote?
Ballot.
Honestly, it's offensive.
No, it's offensive.
When you say things like that, it's offensive.
I do
it's
diligence.
Offensive to you.
I researched my ballot. I don't give it away.
There may have been some other guys you wanted in that year, right? Something like that.
1985?
Yeah.
Who else was on the ballot?
Part of his process is asking my brother and I who we think should be in.
I do. I let them fill out ghost ballots. I'm not beholden to either one of them. But I do solicit their opinion because they follow baseball more closely than I do.
In 85, he was playing. It was 2003.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But it's axiomatic. The more people, I thought of this the other day when Pujols got his 3,000th hit. The more often something is done, the less special it becomes. There's going to be a day, I'll be long gone, when 500 home runs and 3,000 hits is no longer the standard, we're going to have to raise the bar.
We're there with no hitters.
There you go.
This was a question on Highly Questionable yesterday because this is where we are in the argument culture. And by the way, we'll be on First Take in 20 minutes.
Nice.
There was a question on Highly Questionable yesterday. It's the only way the producers of our show could figure out how to talk about hockey. Are the NHL playoffs diminished because Vegas is in the finals? The way that we can find the negative on anybody, the idea that you are a Hall of Fame voter when you have to check with your sons.
I don't have to. I do it voluntarily. I like to solicit opinion.
It's nice. Include the family.
Yeah. You know, I give my wife a vote. She doesn't want it.
You know the fourth most about baseball in your family.
Probably.
And you're a Hall of Fame voter.
Damn right I am. And proudly.
Bailo.
BBWAA flag.
We're still on the air.
Oh, he's
Greg.
proud with his line.
He got his line in. He took his headset off. He put it on the microphone.
When you pick up a green paper, I think we're going to break.
Yeah, going to break is the thing that we're doing. We're not on break.
Sorry, I broke radio.
Don Le Batard.
We're in the middle of the NBA playoffs. My good friend and colleague, Greg Cote of the Miami Herald, just referenced Tony Conigliaro, a 1967 baseball player.
God rest his soul, by the way. Tony C.
Stugotz.
What a tandem he and Yaz would have been. Red Sox had it made. George Boomer Scott at first base, Reggie Smith patrolling center field, Joe Foy at third. Man, Joe Lonborg. Crazy lineup. One of the best ever. And then Tony C. got that injury. Jack Hamilton of the Angels hit him. Went down like a sack of dirt. Got back up. Heroically had a great season in 69, I believe it was.
Nice.
Petered out of the league. And the rest is sad Red Sox history. Getting emotional just talking about it.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Le Batard Show, at Stugotz790, at Greg Cote. Life special events, call for a beautiful bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen Gerber or daisies starting at just $29.99, you'll also get a free vase. For details, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
So in 12 minutes, we're going to cross-pollinate here with First Take. We're going live on First Take. We're going to change the structure to what we do around here. It's not going to sound like what it normally sounds like at the top of the 11 o'clock hour as they welcome us into their home, and we will try to be as respectful as possible until inevitably we get drunk and wreck the place.
Yeah, sonically, it's going to be a bit disarming for our radio audience because you're not going to have your standard rejoin or a Stugotz Sports Center. The very first sound that you're going to hear coming back from break is the First Take rejoin, and the first human voice you'll hear is probably going to be Molly's.
Okay. And so, Chris, what are you going to be doing? You're going to counter-program against us with your father. Where are you going to be doing this? Where are you going to be doing Second Take as Greg Cote answers listener questions because he's, for some reason, not allowed to be around this, and the some reason is that he's terrible at radio and he's going to ruin everything.
Second Take will be on Periscope at Le Batard Show on Twitter. We'll be answering your questions, giving hot takes. It's going to be great.
Okay, so Second Take. So get yourself ready because we are going to bombard you with stuff from this show that's going to just infiltrate every part of the network.
Second Take's not the way to sell this. Best Take is what Greg
very
Cote's
good.
going to be doing.
There you go. Better take.
Yes.
Better take. Yeah, okay, better. And so the question, I am told that the question that they're going to ask us is about the greatness of the Warriors. They're really good. They're a really good basketball team.
Now you're underselling. This is a great question that we can spend hours on.
I've been looking forward to this question my entire life.
Yeah, me too.
When healthy, are the Warriors the greatest team in NBA history?
I got to tell you, they're not, man. I mean,
I don't think
85-86
so.
Celtics
It's
team.
probably the best
Larry
argument
Bird,
since
Robert
Montana
Kevin
versus
McHale,
Marino. I'll tell you that.
Dennis
Sports argument.
They had DJ, and to suggest that Casey Jones could figure out this
what's with the name
offense is
Golden
absurd.
State? I mean, seriously, nobody in California refers to it as Golden State. It's an insult to the people of Oakland,
Andrew
quite
Tony,
frankly.
you had Bobby Jones coming off the bench. You had Dr. J. Moses from Lowe, and Billy Cunningham.
What about Oaktown?
Billy Cunningham.
All they do is shoot threes.
Magic Worthy, all those guys.
Come on.
Just amazing. I really want to go back. I want to go back a little bit further.
Clay Thompson.
I like that 71 Bucks team.
That's an excellent point by you, Roy.
It always begins down, right? Golden State. What about Bob McCann of the Minneapolis? It's all gone downhill since then.
Magic, Elijah Watt.
And the man McCann. That's when the NBA was a man's game. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't think the Golden Warriors have ever had.
Lakers could lap the
How about they win a second title? Oh, back to back. I mean, fell up to the Pistons team. It's unbelievable. Richard Hamilton.
Since Jordan, maybe the best two-guard defender.
Ben Wallace.
Steph Curry's eyes.
That kind of thing.
Geez, how about you win Game 4 against the Rockets? How's that sound?
How about you have a dynasty before you call yourself the greatest ever?
Why are they shooting so many threes? And by the way, Bill Russell is like, what's a three-pointer? Never heard of it. Why are you shooting so far from the basket? These guys have never seen anything like it. It's like aliens came from outer space and trying to play the sport that we've known and loved for so long, but done it completely differently. Oh, and by the way, did I talk about the passing? How many great passes on that Warriors team? That's what makes them so difficult to guard. The idea that you can't key in on one guy and say, I'm going to take the ball out of his hands, and that's going to wrap it up, right? In the history of the NBA, most teams have 1, 2, maybe 3 passes. The Warriors have something like 8. Livingston.
That's such an excellent point. I'm sorry. You're Livingston.
What is Livingston ever done? I mean, the guy gets the never misses.
Sam Jones.
Livingston's a giant. Get out of here.
Sam Jones invented the bank shot.
I'm going to say it again.
6'9".
Magic, Kareem, Worthy, Michael Cooper. How's that for 4? How about that 4? McHale, Parrish,
Seriously. Is better than LeBron. I know.
It's so hard to guard people when I can just bear hug them. Oh, my defense is so tough. What are you talking about? Back in the day, they had this illegal defense rule. Either you had to double or you had to stay home. They've never heard of a stunt before. The idea that I can go there, act like I'm going to help, and then offensive players literally never had to see that. Once you saw the double coming, you knew this double team's coming, so someone's going to be open. I can throw that pass nice and easy, rest easy at night.
And what about the organization?
Mention a team. You take away the 3-point play from Golden State. They could be the Phoenix Suns. They'd be down there with the Phoenix Suns if they took away the 3. They're a one-dimensional team.
They're just throwing Happy Hairston.
Happy Hairston. I've never heard of the team.
69 games.
Pick up a paintbrush once in a while, will you? Get in the paint. Do some dirty work. Play like some dirty work.
Basketball. They don't play basketball.
This is that guy on your team. You don't want to call that walking penalized for every 3-point shot.
A peach basket. No one's taking threes.
Scrappy. Look, James Harden's coming down the lane. He doesn't know. Are they helping? Are they not? It looks like they're helping. Oh, that means my man's open. Throws that pass. Guess what? They were playing you like a pass sheet. Congratulations. You played yourself, James Harden, because those guys all along, they wanted you to throw that pass. They were never going to actually help. They just wanted you to see the illusion of help. And so when you throw that pass, guess what they do? They get back in the passing lane because they're all like 6'8", 6'9", with really long arms.
Oh, that's
well, I'll tell you, speaking of passing, pretty good passer on that 89 Pistons team.
You ever hear of
his name was Isaiah Thomas. Zeke, you ever heard of him? Zeke. From 2 Mars, he had been out here. There's a microwave. They're the guy who can go
nice pick.
Come on.
Why? Because he got so high. Microwave hot.
I am deeply, deeply uncomfortable with how often Greg Cote said play like men during that segment. you got to defend yourself.
Why? Why is that?
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Don Le Batard. It's Rich Eisen stealing my material. It is Jimmy Traina stealing my material. Hey, get out of here, man.
Who is that? Who is Jimmy Traina?
He's a media writer, I think, out of New York, who I happen to like.
Stugotz.
Like,
there it is. There it is. The pivot of the Stugotz into schmarmy salesperson.
No, I happen to like Jimmy. Like, I don't know Jimmy, but I happen to like Jimmy. Jimmy Traina sounds like a guy I would hang out with.
It does. I think you're pronouncing his name wrong, by the way, but keep it moving.
Oh, whatever. I like Jimmy.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Like Kevin Durant, don't say anything. You went and took the shortcut to make your team totally overwhelming.
Did you say he took a shortcut?
Oh, he did take a shortcut.
Welcome aboard.
There is no refuting
Yeah, but now
that.
I have a credible voice behind me. This is amazing.
What do you mean? Everybody says that.
I can't wait to lob this grenade, man. I mean, I
where are you going to lob it? Where are you going to roll it?
Be fighting with? You'll be fighting with someone somewhere soon.
You think that if you tell Golick and Wingo that Durant took a shortcut, that someone's going to object to that?
Yeah, first date tomorrow. Oh, man, I'm going to tell Stephen A.
Yeah, get him. Joining us now from South Beach, God, I love it there, are the real Heatles, Dan Le Batard and John Stugotz, Wiener of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Hi, guys.
Molly, may I interrupt here before we start off this segment?
Yes.
You know, listen, I'm a frequent guest on Dan Le Batard's show with my man Stugotz. Nothing but love for my brother Dan Le Batard. We go back a ways. I cannot believe what I have been hearing. They carry me live at times. They live cut-ins and, quote me at every turn. I even had somebody critiquing my singing, for crying out loud. Not that I can sing. I mean, what is going on, Dan Le Batard? Where is the love, man? I hear that you trolling me every day. What is up?
That is the love,
We
man.
say every day that you're the best to ever do this, that you are entertaining television and radio. And if we can get you singing happy birthday to Clayton Kershaw, or we could get you singing songs because you young kids don't know anything about that, singing songs from the 1980s,
Yes.
we want to do that at every turn.
We want Stephen A. to put an album out. We really do.
Oh,
But
Lord.
Stephen A., think about what we're doing here. We leave our show when we see. Yeah, no, we want you to do it. When we see you're on a great rant, a classic Stephen A. rant, we bail from our show to carry that because you're the greatest ever.
Unbelievable.
We interrupt our programming whenever you're animated, and we are waiting for the Christmas album. We are waiting for that.
Oh my God. You guys are all too much. Let's get into it here, guys. So Golden State obviously has a good shot at winning 3 titles in 4 years. They've got 4 All-Stars on that squad. Dan, are the Warriors, when healthy, the best team in NBA history?
Well, they were the best regular season team before they added Kevin Durant. They were the best team I had seen since Michael Scotty and Dennis Rodman started that. And so they added Kevin Durant after that, and they do all the things those Bulls teams did well. They defend better than anyone, and they're better at a more valuable shot than anyone in Chicago ever was. So, I'd make the argument that this is the best team that I've ever seen.
How about they win a game 4 against the Rockets tonight before we make them the greatest team we've all ever seen? How about that? I mean, every team that Michael Jordan played on that won a championship, all those teams are better than the Golden State Warriors, every one of them.
And not only, the blasphemy sometimes from Dan Le Batard. I just don't understand this guy. Excuse me, like defense is not a part of it. You're trying to tell me that these Golden State Warriors, as great as they are at shooting the basketball, you're trying to tell me these Golden State Warriors couldn't be beaten by any of those old school teams. You got to remember, Dan, those old school rules come with it. You can get a little bit physical. You can hand check. You can do some things that you couldn't do in today's NBA game. You'll get a technical foul for having bad breath in today's game, for crying out loud.
Stephen A., you've got a 2-time MVP, who's not the best player on his own team. You've got you've got a team that Andre Iguodala is your fifth best player. Like, go ahead and name, when you're talking about the fourth and the fifth best guys on those Bulls teams, you're talking about the Kerrs and the Paxtons. They're two-time MVP is the guy who shoots from out there.
Tony Kukoc, you got Dennis Rodman on some of those teams. You got some very good players on some of those teams. And those Laker teams.
Why are you taking their side?
I don't know. I mean, I'm on Stephen A's side on this. Yeah.
Now listen, guys, the answer is the Bulls were better. They were also greater. Like, you never know because they didn't play each other. But the Bulls were a much more dominant team than the Warriors. They didn't lose any championships once they got going. Once Jordan had a single all-star available to him in the games he played in the playoffs, they never didn't win the championship in under 7 games, guys. It's pretty clearly Michael Jordan. They also beat amazing teams, like this idea that Jordan's teams weren't as stacked with talent. The Penny Shaq,
they weren't playing against LeBron, Max. They weren't playing against LeBron.
But Penny Shaq 60-win Magic with a good supporting cast who all knew their roles. Horace Grant.
The Rockets have the best offensive rating in the history of the sport.
Right, because
he's right. Those teams were pushed every single year. Those teams were pushed.
Because analytics have become more advanced and teams pay attention to them more. So, of course, they will be better, but not as dominant in their own era as the Bulls were. And they don't have Michael Jordan either.
Max, how do you feel about this? Max and Stephen A., how do you guys feel about this? Because I have a personal record book, and in my personal record book, Kevin Durant has yet to win an NBA championship. He does not have a ring because up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals, one of the two best players in the world could not close the Warriors out. So rather than come back and try again, can you imagine if Michael Jordan left the Bulls and joined the Pistons because he couldn't beat them by himself? Kevin Durant could not beat the Golden State Warriors by himself, so he left the Oklahoma City Thunder.
No, that's not why he left.
Players of the NBA. No, he left. No,
that's not why he left. Stugotz, not why he left.
Max?
He left. Max? He left for the same reason that the Warriors wanted him, because LeBron is so great that the Warriors 73-win team couldn't beat him. Kevin Durant knew he needed to team, like the best team ever maybe in the regular season, teamed up with one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world and ever at his position in order to overcome LeBron. That's a LeBron response that you're referring to.
No. You listen, you have Russell Westbrook. You're up 3-1. Kevin Durant played horribly in games 5 and 6. Played good in game 7. They lost that game. But in what world are we assigned? Like, in what world does this work in sports and we applaud it? I can't beat that team, so I'm going to join that team. Are you kidding me? Kevin Durant should be ashamed of himself.
That take is 2 years old. You're going on First Take, and you're giving a 2-year-old take.
Because I wanted to see if Stephen A. and Max agree with me. Max does not.
Well, first of all, Stugotz, he knows I agree with him for that. Nobody was more outspoken about Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors than me. So I agree with you there, but nevertheless, it doesn't take away from his greatness, the greatness we've witnessed from him on the basketball court. I have to concede he's one of the top 3 players on the planet. He's just surreal in his own right, and he deserves credit for that. Having said all of that, I think that one of the things, Dan, getting back to you, when we're talking about these old school teams, I think we look at talent and we don't look enough at eras. At eras, if Golden State was in that era where you're allowed to get away with more physicality than you could ever hope to get away with now, I could make the argument, Dan, that this Golden State Warriors team, as great as they are, would be entirely too frail to deal with Jordan and the Bulls from that era. That's the argument I can make before I even get into talent.
But I can make the argument on the other end that an extraterrestrial like Kevin Durant didn't exist during Jordan's age. A 7-footer who could play from out there and make a more valuable shot than any that Michael was good at. I can make the argument on that end that nobody's ever shot or dribbled the way Steph Curry does. No one of that era has ever. That physical play doesn't work. That's not going to work on the guys who are on the perimeter.
Durant is a unique, didn't exist back then. But Shaq and Penny with the supporting cast 60 wins did. Kemp and Peyton with 64 wins on a great Seattle team did. Malone and Stockton on a perennial contender did.
Imagine Penny joining Michael Jordan's team, or imagine Shaq joining Michael Jordan's team.
More like
because
Barkley.
Kevin Durant is a top 20 player of all time.
Right. There's not a perfect comparison, but it's more like Barkley joining Hakeem and Drexler. It's more like that. It's a response to the best player in the world, LeBron James, with a supporting cast, no one else having enough. So they're like, all right, let's team up, I guess. That's really what that's a response to.
Dan,
KD.
I got a question for you. I got a question for you before I let you go, Dan, because I know that you're a very, very busy man, and I just want to say I'm
blessed.
jealous,
though, that you're asking me the question, Steve.
I'm blessed, Dan Le Batard. I'm blessed to have you on this show today, sir. Let me ask you this question, Dan.
Thank you.
If Kevin Durant had elected to go to Miami instead of Golden State, would Kevin Durant and that Miami team have beaten LeBron?
Well, the funny thing about that, Stephen A., is that when Kevin Durant came to those meetings with the Miami Heat were making the argument in those meetings that, look, the degree of difficulty on the style of play that you're playing in Oklahoma City is too hard. We think you're the best basketball player in the world if the game would just be made easier for you. And Durant took that information and is like, you guys are right. I'm going to Golden State. I want this game to be easier and more fun. So he took the information they gave him and he just went to a team that would help him make it easier.
That sounds good. I want to do that. I just don't want to do it with Goran
That's right.
Dragic.
I don't want to do it with Goran Dragic and Justice Winslow. I'll do it over with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Clay.
All right, Dan, Stugotz, a lot of fun. You guys need to join us more, but I'm being told we have to let you go.
All right, I'm available every day. Thanks.
Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
Glad you have that open schedule. I'll pencil
Be
that
nice,
in.
fellas. Be nice, Dan.
Oh, classic. That
Make
they
that Christmas
they air
album.
your rant.
Make it a Christmas album.
Christmas album with Stevie A. Because Stevie A love the kids.
Radio
I'll take care of it.
continues tomorrow.
I'll take
here
care of the album 50-50.
on First Take with Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz. Pay us a visit. Don't miss them. Go head to head with Max and Stephen A. That's Wednesday right here. First Take, a Christmas album. Oh, God.
Dan Le Batard.
My dad did win a Purple Heart. I asked him once how he won the Purple Heart because you always think of, heroism in war. My dad was a cook, an Army cook, and he won a Purple Heart for falling off a truck and breaking his ankle.
Stugotz.
So not all Purple Heart winners are like heroes who save an entire battalion from enemy gunfire. Yes. But, God bless the Purple Heart winner. That's all I'm saying. And I love you, Dad. See you soon.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, you realize they're going to ask us to do that more, right?
Yes.
I was stunned by how much you embrace debate.
You really did?
You're so good at it.
Proud of you,
Why
man.
don't you do that more often?
Yes.
Because I hate it.
What?
But you're so good.
I couldn't tell from that performance.
I mean,
you know good and well I hate it, Stugotz. You've worked long
I know
enough
you did.
with me to know that that's not the kind of show I want to be doing.
I know, but
you did a great job, man.
You're in here with a tackling dummy, though, to go up there with the elite and show that you belong. Woo.
I don't want to do that kind of show.
I also think he knows he belongs.
I want to do the show that we were doing 5 minutes earlier where we're all talking over each other. There are two links yelling at each other, and Amin El-Hassan pops out of the sky to give you analysis, all of which was just to disorient Greg Cote to get him on the hard network out.
Links is. That's a fun.
And furthermore, and this is really the core of it, if you want to dig down deep as to why it is that I don't like that, because it's twofold. One, we had to kick everyone else out of the way in order to do it. Everyone else who has a voice on this show got kicked out of the way in order for us to do it. And the person I'm married to rather sleep with that show. Like the person that I have been married to for 15 years wants the bedroom pyrotechnics of the menage a trois. He'll settle for menage a tray with the morning show of Golic and Wingo, but that's his ideal. That right there, what you just heard is the celebrity hall pass that Stugotz wants, where you give your husband or your wife, look, if you want to sleep with that person, I'll allow it.
Right. I mean, I appreciate you if you would spice it up just a little bit, and then perhaps I won't flirt with them so much. Definitely won't flirt with Golic and Wingo. Just spice up a little bit. Little debate, Jordan, LeBron, Golden State, best team ever, baseball, anything. A little debate once a week, and I'm good.
I saw the look he gave you when you were embracing debate.
Yeah.
It was like in that moment he realized why he loved you in the first place.
Yeah.
And then we just
you were alive again. I mean,
we ostracized Greg Cote to another room where he came in here muttering about the 600 people who were asking him questions on Periscope.
Did I say 600? I meant 600,000. I was not privy to the debate. What was the verdict? That Golden State is or isn't the best team ever?
We don't know.
That's the beauty of debate.
Oh, no, we absolutely.
Steph Curry is
they're the best team of all time. Are you kidding me? He didn't work on when he said Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was playing center back in the day.
That's 4 guys.
He came back with Penny.
I know.
Come on, Max, out of here.
Please. The guy does it every day. Penny.
What did you do on Periscope, Greg? What kind of questions were you answering? That's the show I wanted to be.
The questions were all over the map. You know, what's your least favorite soup, and innie or outie belly button, and
Chris, how did it go? I know you came in here worried about his stomach and something that was over his stomach, and all of a sudden we were making doctor appointments.
Yeah, he claims it's an outie belly button, but it seems to be just a lump above his belly button.
What?
It's an Audi. I used to drive an Audi, by the way.
Overall, it went well, though.
You had it checked out?
Yeah, I have it. I go for a checkup twice a year. I'm an old man.
We learned a lot. We learned about his favorite
colors last time.
We learned about his favorite soup, about trips to Vegas.
Damn right.
I think we asked him which one of you two smells better. It was good.
I don't remember that question.
Well, I'll ask it now.
I think you both smell divine.
Was it good?
There were a lot of questions. I thought it went well. It was random questions for Greg Cote.
I mean, Max, Molly, and Stephen A. also had a lot of questions for us. Was it good? Was it good for you guys? I know it was good for me.
Well, how did you feel about all of that, Stugotz? It was good for you too, Mike?
Oh, man, I am so starstruck. We were on First Take.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Well, you were on First Take, but man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Wow, our little show.
Our little show, the biggest in America.
Our little biggest show ever.
The little
train, it's still little,
the little train that could.
I soared near the sun just now.
Yeah.
At one point, Mike took out his phone and was taking pictures of the TV.
The sun, of course, is Stephen A.
Oh, yeah, and don't fly too close.
No.
It sounded like we were dangerously close to POing Stephen A. Stephen A. All the stuff that we've done around here evidently has been gotten. It gets back to Stephen A. through spies and moles and traitors and betrayers.
Well, I mean, I'm not to sell anybody out, but how do you think that stuff gets back to us? Oh, yeah. Well, you got people too, Stephen A.
Yeah.
We do. Anytime he sings on his show 1 to 3, somebody is. I feel like we've got an army of people listening to his show just to find out what we can use of it, so we don't have to create our own content.
Why didn't he have any questions for you, Stugotz?
I don't know. We agreed on the Golden State thing, which is you know what? My dream was to debate Stephen A. Smith on something we truly had opposing viewpoints on, and that didn't happen today. But perhaps we did good enough that we'll join him again another day. What do you think, Dano? Tomorrow? And the next day? Weekly? Spice it up, Dan. Hour day. In? Done.
Don Le Batard.
Trailers for sale or rent. Rooms to let 50 cents.
Stugotz.
I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, what are we going to do when inevitably First Take wants to do more of that and Stugotz wants to do more of that and I don't want to do any more of that?
Then we just have to counter with you can take Stugotz and then it'll go away.
I'm going to do it. I don't want to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. If they ask me, I'm going to go on.
Ah, man, it was so fun. We can't do that every once in a while.
Delightful. Once a week will satisfy me.
Flirt with the other side.
Come on, Dan.
Yeah.
Man.
You were so good, man.
You were so good.
You really were.
Yeah. It's amazing how much content
there is. I heard you were real good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys not object? I'm really surprised. I don't want to talk about this too much more, but I'm really surprised. Like, if they allow us to do our show there, fine. If they allow us to include everybody.
Stephen A. show. Relax there, man. Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's just get in there, and then maybe once we're in there, then maybe we could turn it around a little bit. By the way, Isaiah Thomas, Zeke, one of the top 5 point guards of all time, tweeted out, please First Take more at Le Batard Show with Stephen A. and Max. Insightful debate. Thanks.
How about that?
So Josh Allen was drafted by the Bills, and Mina Kimes is going to be on with us tomorrow, senior writer for ESPN, the magazine, who has a weird allegiance to the Bills because she wrote a story about Tyrod Taylor, who is no longer with the Bills. And when the Bills traded up to get Josh Allen, Mina Kimes was doing a draft show with Dominique Foxworth, and this was Mina Kimes' objective journalist reaction to the Bills drafting Josh Allen. Again, she's a Seahawks fan who has a tattoo of the Seahawks Super Bowl victory on her bicep, but for some reason, this was her reaction to the Bills drafting Josh Allen.
I would have picked Rosen over Mayfield and
I'm
Darnold.
a fan, man. He's a good. Okay, that's got to be Rosen reaction. That can't.
Well, that's Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Wow.
Josh
Allen.
Those are links.
What are you doing?
So let's remember.
Oh,
man, that's incredible.
Mina's done for the day.
this is madness. I'm sorry. Like, someone has to speak for reason here. Somebody has to speak for logic and statistics. I know stats are for losers, but I come here.
Hear ye.
I come here defending statistics and logic and playing good in college. What?
This is nuts.
This is crazy.
Wow. I just love that reaction.
Dominique
That's how fans watch it.
Dominique Foxworth is a former NFL cornerback. Has he ever sounded more like British Parliament than hear ye? Mike, can you?
How could he possibly, though? Think about it.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Has Dominique Foxworth ever sounded more like British Parliament than saying hear ye?
Hear ye.
I come here defending statistics.
How much would you pay if a time machine could take you back to when the Seahawks lost the Super Bowl just to be next to Mina? If that's how she reacted to the draft.
That'd be great.
With the call on the 1 yard line, why are we not handing it to Marshawn Lynch? We got to ask her about that tomorrow. Mike, can you merge the Lynxes and Mina Kimes at some point? And can you update me on what happened with Jalen Ramsey and Josh Allen? Because I saw a headline, I didn't bother to read it, that Josh Allen was taking in stride the criticism of Jacksonville Jags cornerback Jalen Ramsey, who trolled him on Twitter. Do you know this story, Cody?
I've heard it, yeah.
Can you give me any of the details?
I don't know details.
Okay, very good.
Parameters.
Totally useless. Yeah. Thank you.
He was retweeting with comments some Josh Allen passes, and he said that's got a pick written all over it. And then he deleted the tweet and put emoji crying faces. This is the second DB to try Josh Allen because Jamal Adams from Stugotz's New York Football Jets tweeted out a highlight of him intercepting Josh Allen in college and saying, "I can't wait to catch passes from my favorite quarterback."
I'm disappointed he deleted the tweets, man. It's so funny. He's giving you the video of Josh Allen, and he is saying that's a pick waiting to happen. Why delete it, though? You're Jalen Ramsey. You want to be the next Deion Sanders. Leave that thing there.
We interviewed Jalen Ramsey. Cody, nodding your head on radio doesn't help anybody. We interviewed Jalen Ramsey with his father on Highly Questionable, and his father actually said, "I feel like the receiver disrespects my son by showing up for the game." I want the Ramsey family to be more in our lives as sports consumers. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. His father was a delight to talk to because he was no nonsense about, like, I asked him to recreate the phone calls when Jalen has to play against Antonio Brown, and he was just really strong on all subjects that his son is the best. He still trains his son, and the only thing that they seemed to disagree on during the interview was how many times Jalen Ramsey got that belt growing up. His father says it was, one hand, the entire experience of childhood. He could count on one hand the number of times that he got the belt. And Jalen Ramsey said one hand if we're talking about a single week. Wow. So there seems to be a gulf of difference.
Yeah, got to be careful there.
Between how they view that one. They got to be careful there. Why?
Does he have LeVar Ball in him, Mr. Ramsey?
He objected to that. He didn't like.
You mentioned that?
He didn't like that at all. But that was his son's own appraisal. He said my father can make LeVar Ball. He can make the comparison that he could make LeVar Ball shrink in the shadow of his own father, Lamont. But there wasn't very much evidence of that during the interview, and Lamont wasn't having that.
I would have picked Rosen over Mayfield and
I'm
Darnold.
a fan, man. He's a good. Okay, that's got to be Rosen reaction. That can't.
Well, that's
Josh Allen. So let's remember. That's incredible.
It really is.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
This is your bedroom. This is your bedroom with Blue Chew. Blue Chew uses the same active ingredients as in Viagra or Cialis, but now comes in chewable form. Chewable means better, cheaper, and works faster than pills. No in-person doctor visit, no waiting in line, no more awkwardness. 100% online at BlueChew.com, where your first order is free. Just pay $5 shipping. Use promo code DAN at BlueChew.com and restart the party.
Dan Le Batard. Ta-da! Stugotz.
Voila.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Greg Cote has a segment. It's his most popular segment. It's Back in My Day. He waxes nostalgic about times gone by. He's basically anti-technology, basically anti-advancement. He is someone who longs for a day when everyone stayed in their house just listening to the air conditioner hum.
So nice.
Beautiful. Or even before air conditioners. Right. He might have liked some other sound because air conditioners represent technology and he's against technology.
I would give away my air conditioner if I just had silence. Would you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
me too.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Dan, have kids. That's what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
Have kids.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Would you give up your air conditioner in exchange for silence? Have kids. You've got teenage girls.
Oh, hey, that's a great age.
Please, really? Oh man,
Are you kidding me?
They don't make any noise.
They make more noise now than they've ever made. Man.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Wait a minute. You're a legend. Hold on. Put that on the poll as well, Guillermo. Do teenage girls make more noise than babies? Yes or no?
I'm telling you,
they cry more as well.
They cry more. They can think for themselves. They come back at me. It's totally disrespectful. I mean, I'm telling you, Dan, I paid a lot of money just to send all the ladies in my life. I just sent them away to New York for a weekend on Mother's Day just so I could have silence. I bought silence.
Yep.
That's what I did. She thought it was a present for her. It was really a present for me.
Yep.
And if they said, hey, take the air conditioner for a weekend, I would have thrown that in as well.
Priceless.
Yep.
Silence.
Happy Mother's Day to me.
Time now for Greg Cote's Back in My Day.
And now, it is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guy, Greg Cote, with Back in My Day.
Superheroes. I know the world is a lunatic cesspool full of bad guys. Still, why do we need so many superheroes? Back in my day, we got by just fine with the big two, Superman and Batman. Now somebody told me there's a superhero called Ant-Man, his power that he can shrink to the size of an insect. Trouble is, Ant-Man has an Achilles heel, the heel of my shoe, also a can of Raid. Then there's Thor from the planet Asgard, carrying around a giant hammer. Seems like kind of an old-school weapon. There's a new Thor movie coming out. The soundtrack is the old Pete Seeger song, If I Had a Hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. Black Panther, I guess, is a new superhero. Until somebody explained it, I assumed it was a biopic about Bobby Seale or Huey Newton. Too many so-called superheroes are flying around. Silver Surfer, Aquaman, Dr. Manhattan, Hulk, Spider-Man, Wolverine. Oh, and how about Green Lantern? Dude's power is in his ring, but the ring runs on a battery. He's in the middle of saving the damn world and has to stop to borrow a charger. Are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles superheroes? Anyway, now they're 20 years down the road, heavily drinking middle-aged turtles in the throes of a midlife crisis and a shell of their former selves. There's all these superhero groups now, too, as Marvel and DC joust for your movie dollars, the Avengers, Justice League. Real superheroes don't need anybody's help. All we really need are Batman and Superman, folks. One will always have his trusty Batcave. The other I do worry about. In the latest Superman movie, a distress call comes in and poor Clark Kent spends the entire film trying and failing to find a phone booth to change in, finally crumpling exasperated in a pool of his own sweat as the world explodes. Bring back the phone booth, if only to save Superman. I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
Nice.
What's going on with the phone booth industry? Like that, where is it gone? It can't be totally gone.
I think it's thriving, yeah.
Well, in Great Britain, they still have red phone booths. But in this country, it's become an obsession of mine, along with my dad's Purple Heart, is finding a phone booth in this country. You can still find a payphone, and it's usually dangling off the hook. But to find a phone booth is a real, it's just a challenge. It's wonderful to go around looking for phone booths.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. I mean, they're all over New York still, right? No?
Booths? No, I don't think so.
No, I think there are phone booths in New York City. Yes, I believe there.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Like there are some. I know there's a bunch, like a row of them by Madison Square Garden.
Guillermo, where he's making all his bets on a non-traceable line.
Yep.
Once it becomes legal,
of course.
Guillermo, put on the poll: is it hard to find a phone booth in America? Time now for our Stugotz of the day.
It is time to find out which evildoer behaves so rotten that he can only be compared to these radio programs' profoundly immoral co-hosts. Let's find out who acted most like a Stugotz.
Unbelievable, man. Anyway, courtesy of Pete Suderman, Los Angeles firefighter Don Thompson was paid for more than 9,200 hours of work last year. There are only 8,760 hours in a year. Congratulations to Don for being our Stugotz of the day.
That is getting some serious overtime, man. That dude got $300,000 in overtime on top of his salary, which was $92,000.
And he played.
That guy quadrupled. How did he do that? How do you put in?
I assume he lied.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, that's why he's the Stugotz of the
I know.
day.
How do you get away with it is my point.
Well, he didn't.
He did not. Yeah, this guy
he
busted
did for,
him.
wait a minute. He did for a while. And then someone looked at the bookkeeping and was like, wait a minute, we're paying a firefighter $400,000? What happens to that guy? Like, what are the penalties for
He's promoted.
that guy? Because I'm looking here at an article, and it reads, here's how the math breaks down. Thompson, like all firefighters in Los Angeles, works 2,912 hours every year with a base salary of $92,000. That comes to an hourly rate of $31.60. That means Thompson would earn overtime pay at a rate of $47.40 per hour, 1.5 times the base rate. But earning $302,000 at a rate of $47.40 per hour would require working more than 6,370 hours. Add that to the 2,912 hours he worked as a salaried employee, and you get more than 9,200 hours work, despite the fact that there aren't 900. There aren't 9,000 hours in a year. So, do you think that guy has trouble sleeping at night? Worried that soon he's going to get caught?
How can he not?
No, I don't think he thinks. I don't think that creature. I know that creature. I don't think he thinks about that until, after the fact.
You know that creature?
Yeah.
Because he greets you on those mornings that you decide to brush your teeth in the mirror?
Wow, that was a bad segment.
Was it?
Then he basically lived at the station, this guy. He basically lived there. See, people think firefighters are just sitting around the station. They're not. Feels like they're handing out free money over here. They're not. He's basically acknowledged that he has lived at the station. That's exactly what he was doing. Sitting around the fire station, yet he is claiming that he wasn't doing any of those things. I love this guy. I want to become president. Let's get Don Thompson on it.
Don Le Batard.
What do you prefer, flat wings or drumsticks? Because I like drumsticks.
I like drumsticks, too, yeah.
Flat rules.
Stugotz.
If people do just drums, though, you'd think there's a bunch of extra flat wings just laying around, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think more people do all flats, though.
No,
Really?
I think more people do drumettes. I'm telling you, more
Wait a
people do
minute.
the drumettes.
I like drumettes so much more.
no.
In fact, I'd prefer to do all drums.
Flatten it.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald in with us. In about 15 minutes, we will talk to a guy who is going to try to swim from Tokyo to San Francisco. This from The Athletic, Jason Lloyd at The Athletic, because all of what I'm about to say is so. The slowest player in this series between Cleveland and Boston, slowest, has been LeBron James, based on these metrics that we now use to measure how fast people are moving, how often they're walking. Brian Windhorst wrote that story that LeBron James is better at getting rest in play than anyone in the sport. He walks a lot during the game.
That's actually interesting to me that he does that he finds spots where he can rest on the field while other people are playing, or on the court.
That's smart. Yeah. I credit him for that.
Yes.
Well, you credit him for it when they're winning. When they're losing, you say he's quitting and tanking games on Golic and Wingo.
No, Dan, when I watch him play defense, that's not where you take the time off, is when the other team's trying to score.
I mean,
no, when I coach lacrosse, I tell our team, hey, when we're on offense, that's a time for you to rest. Let a girl go one-on-one. Let one of our girls go. I can't believe I'm comparing this.
I coach lacrosse.
Which is often.
Right.
No, I haven't lost a game in a year, but I say, hey, get your rest on offense, not on defense. Defense is the time you don't rest. You're trying to prevent the other team from scoring.
That's good coaching.
Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
So he's averaging in this series 32, 7, and 9. He's shooting almost 55%. He leads all players in scoring. But according to the league's tracking data, no one in this series is running slower than James. And he's the second slowest player in the entire postseason. Now, when presented with, now keep in mind, the second slowest player behind Zaza Pachulia. That's right. Now, these are the strongest quotes I've ever heard LeBron James, who called the president a bum, ever give. Quote, "That's the dumbest bleep I've ever heard. The tracking bull bleep can kiss my bleep. The slowest guy, get out of here.
Yeah.
Tell them to track how tired I am after the game. Track that bleep. I'm number 1 in the NBA on how tired I am after the game."
Great quote.
So awesome.
I am number 1 in the NBA on how tired I am after the game. I don't think LeBron's ever been this passionate about anything.
I want more of that, LeBron.
Yes.
I do, just biting back, man. I want that.
And it needed to be said by the best player in the game that all of these extrapolations and arcane statistics are ridiculous.
Yes, we have a credible voice now.
Yes.
I mean, he's given us life. How do you feel about this, Dave?
He is normally someone who is open-minded about data. He loves data. He doesn't love the data that insults him.
Yeah, until it hits on an insecurity. That right there was him getting defensive.
Woo! Like he wasn't in the first 2 games of this series.
What's the point, though? What's the point of that stat? Slowest guy. Who cares?
I mean,
LeBron James.
We got to figure out new ways to talk about his greatness because his greatness is becoming mundane. You look at last night's game and it doesn't surprise you, and it goes you could put it in the pantheon of best games anyone's ever had in the postseason, but he's got so many of them that it doesn't even matter anymore.
He's got 6 just like him this postseason. But is that complimenting him? It's saying that he's playing slow.
Well, it depends on whether they win or lose. He plays slow, and he's getting rest, and he's smart, and he's a genius. If you frame it that way, he didn't object this way to Windhorst's story about how often he's walking. But he's objecting to all of this.
LeBron James is as close as we have in sports to an athlete who is beyond reproach. You should not question anything he does on the court. That's how great he is. And you certainly should not question his effort or how fast he's running or how many times he's dribbling the ball.
I can question it if I want. I mean, listen, Greg, I watched the games, okay? I've seen 3 separate occasions where
you watch the games, you coach lacrosse, you're undefeated, you haven't lost a lacrosse game in a year.
Well, it's actually 18 months, so
which I respect.
I give myself enough credit.
All right, enough. The chickens need to come out. The chickens are bouncing against the cage and they're furious.
I honestly can't prove it. Every single weekend you fucking say the ref's wrong. You always say the ref's wrong. We can't cost you a game.
Maybe I'm a fool.
I think I'm going to take your word for it. No! That's insane!
Thank you.
I can't prove otherwise.
Yeah, thanks.
What
are you doing?
This team I can't prove
by the way.
Are you getting kicked out of the friendlies that don't count? Is that what you're saying? Like, what are you doing? Didn't you get ejected from a game that you lost?
Not in my personal record book. I got kicked out of a tournament. I came back in. I coached from the parent sideline wearing a Bobby Valentine type costume. Eddie play. And we won.
Adam Schefter is reporting Frosty Belichick saying he's not talking about anybody who's not at training camp.
Yep, here's the exact quote. I'm not going to talk about the people that aren't here when asked if he's spoken to Tom Brady. The guys who are here are improving. They are working hard. Those are the guys we're going to focus on. Frosty, man. Woof.
What a waste of time OTAs are. The idea that NFL teams have to gather and have a practice in May is ridiculous. It's a waste of time. It's like spring football practice at the college level. It's just it's something you could do away with, and the quality of play in the league would not drop an iota.
This show ain't free. Time for some ads.
Coming up next, again, we got a guy who's swimming from Tokyo. We're going to try to, from Tokyo to San Francisco. And all of that said, even though it's noisy, all of that said about Brady and Belichick, and it doesn't mean much on the results, quarterbacks don't do that. That quarterback certainly doesn't do it.
Well, he's doing
it
now.
Quarterbacks in general don't miss OTAs.
Don Batard.
I love me some doctors. Have a lot of respect for the medical profession.
Stugotz.
Except chiropractors.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
You can follow his journey across the Pacific in real time, live video, Seeker.com, weekly updates on the Discovery Channel. He has already done this with the Atlantic, although it has not been recognized by the Guinness World Records. And we will get to that in a second. Thank you for joining us, Ben. You are doing this in order to make people aware of all the trash that we leave in the ocean. When you did this with the Atlantic, what kind of stuff did you run across?
Hi, good morning. In the Atlantic, not too much. And the trash we are going to find out are not going to be big pieces of plastic floating. The trash that you have are what is called microplastic or microfibers. So you need to have a special net in order for you to get it, and after to measure what type of density is in the water.
When you did this in the Atlantic, what's the most scared you were?
You know, having a shark following you for 5 days, I think it's pretty scary. And sometimes big weather, big waves that pushed me a few times against the boat. So, I had a tough moment.
Hold on a second. Why was a shark following you for 5 days, and what kind of shark was it?
It was a blue shark, about 8 feet long. And I think it was just curiosity. Never show any sign of being aggressive. Was just curious, just staying around, going around, and we had a device that creates a magnetic field in the water, and that repels the shark. So it just at a certain distance at all times.
Ben, I've had relationships that didn't last 5 days of curiosity.
Yeah, but it's got this ring around it. I guess that the shark can't even get the bend if it wanted to. You should have that kind of ring around you.
I kind of do, emotionally. So
it's Mike.
So explain this to us. What does this feel like? What level of fatigue? How are you resting? When are you resting? What are you eating? There's a boat alongside you, yes?
Yeah, so exactly. So I swim 8 hours a day beside the boat, and when I am finished, then we log in the GPS location, and I go on the boat, sleep on the boat, eat on the boat, and the next morning they bring me back to that location. But there is a crew on board, so while I will be swimming, they will be collecting data about, the plastic being one, but acidification, about radioactivity, about phytoplankton, microbiome. So they have more than 1,000 different samples that they will collect. And some of them also, it's on me, monitoring my heart and my microbiome too. So they are going to be very busy doing those measurements.
Ben, when you're in the midst of swimming continuously for 2 to 4 hours and the urge strikes, is it considered acceptable to urinate in the ocean?
Yeah, because I do that to stay warm as well. You know, the water is pretty cold, so to have that in the wetsuit, that just warms that a little. It's a little gross, but what can you do?
Beautiful.
You got to do what you got to do, right, Ben?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Why did Guinness not recognize you?
For the Atlantic swim, it was different. So it was not a stage swim. A stage swim is what I will be doing in the Pacific, meaning that each time I will go back in the water will be where I stopped previously. So all the miles are going to be swum. For the Atlantic, it was a drift swim. So when I was on the boat was drifting, and then I was going back in the water at the time. They could have accredited the swim also for the during the Atlantic, but I didn't. It wasn't my purpose. It wasn't something I was thinking about doing, so I didn't follow the procedure in order to keep track of the progress and all that. It wasn't my goal at the time. It was a total different swim.
Excuse me. What was the closest you were to quitting the first time you did this? When you did the Atlantic?
Yeah, those thoughts come into your mind almost every day. Sometimes it's much more difficult to deal with than others. And we had some issue with the water maker also on the boat and couldn't use as much water to rinse ourselves and all that. That made it also very difficult. But that's a struggle that you have to go through every day. That comes in your mind. You don't have a really easy day. When you wake up in the morning, you are tired and you are in pain. You don't sleep very well on the boat usually. So you start the day with not being 100%.
Ben, is what you're doing more taxing physically or mentally?
I think it's a good point. I think it's physically, it's difficult, but then you are going to get used to the rhythm, and after it's mentally that you have to push it. It's mind over matter. And every day, you have to push yourself to jump in the water and to keep on going. It's a challenge, and I have different ways to deal with it and to prepare my mind and to know what I'm going to be thinking for those 8 hours while I swim, because the mind is the most challenging part of all that.
Explain the pain to us, please.
The pain can be, it changes. So it can be physical pain or it can be mental pain. But when you swim, you are going to be in pain anyway, your shoulders or your lower back, because I use fins, so it creates some pressure on your lower back. And then after you have the pain of not being in contact with people, the pain of just being looking at the same blue background, having the same water rushing by your ear, so you hear the same noise all the time, the same feel of the water on your hand and face, and you are deprived of so many stimuli. So you feel that you are isolated, you are just there alone, and you feel very small. And it's very humbling at the same time, but it's very painful to be physically and mentally in pain, knowing that you are just alone. You don't have anything around but your thoughts.
How long will it take?
Around 6 months or so, give or take, but who is counting? Huh?
You're talking about the mental. I imagine it's pretty meditative, the idea of swimming, that you just sort of transport yourself. Are there ever any easy 8-hour days? Like any days that go by very quickly?
No, you're right. It's how well you will be meditating and how well you can transport yourself somewhere else. So I do different type of exercise, but the goal is to dissociate your mind from your body and have your mind being, somewhere reliving a moment, and your body is just an autopilot swimming. The better you can do that, and then the better day you will have. But at the same time, you have amazing encounters, like a dolphin coming and swim with you. That's an amazing moment. Then you know that your day is going to be pretty good when that happens.
Ben, one of the many scientific institutions collaborating with you on this journey is NASA. What does a space agency gain from what you're doing?
So, yeah, it's interesting because you have a few parallels between what I'm going to do being in low gravity and what astronauts experience when they are in space. They want to know the fact that I'm going to exercise so much, if it's going to change anything with my bone density. And also the extreme endurance. They're interested to see about my heart, how it's going to affect it, or if it's going to affect it. And another thing is the eye, pressure of the eye. For some reason, apparently, that's an issue with the astronauts not having the same pressure when they are in space. And here, since I'm going to be in low gravity for many hours, and when I'm on the boat, I'm going to be laying down anyway most of the time. So they want to see if there is any change just by the positioning.
When you were going across the Atlantic, what was the most blissful moment that you had connecting with nature? Is it that what you mentioned about the dolphins, or is it something else?
No, absolutely. That was the dolphin, and at the same time, it was also scary, but very amazing moment. It was with the shark, knowing that the shark was there, because before jumping in the water, I could see the fin going around the boat, jumping in that water and being around. It was it was something very humbling to have a big animal being around, being just curious and. It was amazing. These were amazing moments.
If you want to watch his journey across the Pacific in real time, Tokyo to San Francisco, live video, Seeker.com, and also the Discovery Channel. Has anyone informed you that you're doing this during typhoon season?
Typhoon season will start pretty soon, but it's not going to be. That's why we need to leave pretty soon to avoid those typhoons.
Are the waves crazy? Like when you did the Atlantic, you have to get out of the water when the waves are too much, right?
It just depends. Sometimes you have big waves, but they are big roller coaster, and you can have nice body surf on them. The problem is when the waves are in all directions and they crash, and it's difficult to keep track of the boat, and for the boat, difficult to keep track of me. So that's when it's difficult. Otherwise,
difficult to keep track of the boat. You don't know where the boat is.
No, because the boat is trailing a line, and I'm just keeping direction based on that line, like the line that you have at the bottom of a pool. The boat has a boom extended with a line that goes under, and I just stay on top of it. That gives me the direction. So if the boat is being bounced around and move faster in some ways and other, then I lose track of that line.
Ben, good luck. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your interest.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPN.